November 16, 2025, a date that would be etched into Boston's memory forever. As dawn broke, the city was already bracing for something extraordinary, but no one could have predicted the scale of what was about to unfold. Boston awoke to a world erased by white. Nor'easter. Nero had arrived. Overnight, familiar streets and landmarks were buried beneath a relentless blanket of snow, transforming the city into a surreal, silent landscape. The wind screamed through the city, rattling windows and howling down alleyways. Snow attacked sideways, stinging faces and piling up against every surface. Cars vanished under monstrous drifts, and sidewalks disappeared, leaving only ghostly outlines. Down at the harbor, the unthinkable happened. The Atlantic began to freeze. Ice crept across the water's surface, trapping boats in sudden, unyielding sheets. Fishermen and harbor workers watched in disbelief as the ocean itself seemed to surrender to winter's fury. And this wasn't just a snowstorm, it was a full-scale assault. The city was under siege, battered by nature's raw power, as if the storm had a mind of its own and a score to settle. Seawater surged over barriers, flooding streets and glass towers, then flash froze into treacherous ice. In minutes, roads became skating rinks, and entire neighborhoods were encased in a dangerous, glittering shell. The city's vulnerability was on full display, a chilling vision of worst-case reality. Iconic landmarks stood powerless beneath layers of ice, their strength tested by forces far beyond human control. For millions hunkered at home, the world shrank to the storm's roar and the flicker of emergency alerts. Families gathered by candlelight, listening to the wind and hoping the power would hold, their lives suddenly reduced to the essentials. Travel was impossible. Emergency services stretched to the brink. Ambulances and fire trucks struggled through impassable streets while abandoned vehicles became frozen monuments to the storm's chaos. Boston, usually bustling, was silenced, held captive by Nero's icy grip. The city's heartbeat slowed, its energy stilled, as if time itself had frozen along with the harbor. The city's resilience was tested as never before. Neighbors reached out to one another, shoveling paths, sharing supplies and braving the cold to help those in need. Emergency crews worked tirelessly, their determination shining through the storm. Nature once again had the final say. As snow continued to fall and the city lay frozen, Boston was reminded of its fragility and its strength in the face of the unimaginable. What made Nero so fierce? To understand, we need to look at the science behind one of nature's most dramatic weather events. When people hear the term bomb cyclone, it might sound like something out of a disaster movie, but it's a real meteorological phenomenon that can unleash incredible power. Meteorologists call it a bomb cyclone, a storm that rapidly intensifies in just 24 hours. This isn't your average snowstorm. It's a weather system that can transform from mild to monstrous almost overnight, catching cities off guard and leaving a trail of chaos in its wake. The process is called bombogenesis. It happens when a low-pressure system's central pressure drops by at least 24 millibars in a single day. That rapid drop is like hitting the gas pedal on a storm, making it much more intense, dangerous, and unpredictable. Nero shattered records, plunging 50 millibars to a staggering 940. That's a pressure drop more typical of a major hurricane than a winter storm, fueling hurricane-force winds and blinding snow that battered everything in its path. These storms form when cold, dry air from the north collides with warm, moist air from the Atlantic, especially over the Gulf Stream, where the temperature contrast is sharpest. This clash of air masses creates the perfect breeding ground for explosive weather. The result? Explosive energy, relentless wind and snow that can pile up in just a few hours. Streets disappear, visibility drops to near zero, and life grinds to a halt as the storm rages on. Nero's worst feature? It stalled off Cape Cod, hammering Boston for hours instead of moving on. This meant the city faced wave after wave of snow and wind, with no break in sight. The strongest snow bands circled the city, ensuring a prolonged and devastating impact. These bands acted like conveyor belts, delivering constant snow and wind, making recovery nearly impossible while the storm lasted. This was no ordinary winter storm. It was a rare and extreme event, the kind that meteorologists study for years and that people remember for a lifetime. Nero was a meteorological monster. An unforgettable example of nature's raw power, and a reminder of just how quickly the weather can turn from calm to catastrophic. Nor'easter Nero's numbers tell the story. Suburbs buried under 30 inches of snow, Boston itself with 18. At the peak, snow fell at up to 4 inches per hour, impossible for plows to keep up. Winds gusted over 60 mph in Boston, 80 on Cape Cod, tearing trees and siding, turning debris into hazards. A 6-foot storm surge flooded the seaport in East Boston, causing over $2 billion in damage. Power outages peaked at 400,000 customers, many left in the cold for days. The storm's human toll was measured in darkness, cold, and upended lives. Nero became the costliest winter storm since the blizzard of '78. Its impact will be felt for years. As Nero raged, Boston ground to a halt. Logan Airport closed, stranding thousands. The MBTA shut down. T-trains and buses stopped cold. Highways became impassable. Abandoned cars buried in drifts. No travel orders kept people home, shrinking their world to 4 walls. Coastal neighborhoods faced a double threat. Seawater surged in, then froze, encasing streets in ice. Familiar landmarks vanished beneath snow and ice. The city's geography transformed. The storm's silence was broken only by the wind and the distant wail of sirens. Boston was frozen in time, a city at nature's mercy. Power outages during Nero weren't just inconvenient, they were dangerous. Heavy snow and wind snapped trees and power lines, plunging hundreds of thousands into darkness and cold. Families bundled up, improvising for warmth and light. Some turned to generators or gas stoves, risking deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. Emergency officials pleaded for safe heating practices, but tragedies still occurred. Utility crews braved the blizzard, working tirelessly to restore power. Their efforts were slow and perilous, but for many, the sight of a utility truck brought hope. The storm revealed the fragility of modern life. Survival depended on preparation and each other. Surviving Nero wasn't luck, it was preparation. A well-stocked emergency kit, food, water, flashlights, radio, medications, was essential. Prevent frozen pipes by letting faucets drip and opening cabinet doors. Never turn off the heat completely, even if you leave home. Stay off the roads. Even four-wheel drive can't conquer blinding snow and ice. If you must drive, carry blankets, water, snacks, and a shovel. Keep your gas tank half full. Sign up for emergency alerts and have a plan to charge your phone. Check on neighbors, especially the elderly or those alone. Information and community are your best tools. Preparation saves lives. In storms like Nero, small actions make a big difference. Was Nero a sign of climate change? It's a question that's on the minds of scientists, city officials, and everyday people alike. As storms grow more intense and unpredictable, many wonder if we're witnessing the new normal. While no single storm can be blamed entirely on climate change, the evidence is mounting. Warming oceans are a key ingredient in the recipe for stronger, more destructive storms. As ocean temperatures rise, they provide more fuel for storm systems, allowing them to grow larger and more powerful than ever before. In 2025, Atlantic waters were 1.5 degrees warmer than average, a seemingly small change with huge consequences. Warmer water means more evaporation, which adds extra moisture and energy to the atmosphere. This supercharges storms, making them wetter, windier, and more intense when they make landfall. More heat in the system means heavier snow and rain when storms hit. Cities can see record-breaking precipitation, leading to flooding, power outages, and dangerous travel conditions. The polar vortex and jet stream are also shifting in response to a warming planet. These changes can allow frigid Arctic air to plunge much farther south than usual, where it collides with warm, moist air from the tropics, setting the stage for explosive storms. Since 1990, bomb cyclones in the North Atlantic have increased by 20%. These rapidly intensifying storms are becoming more frequent, and their impacts are being felt up and down the coast. Nero was the third such storm that season alone, a clear sign that what was once rare is now becoming routine. The trend is unmistakable. Extreme storms are becoming more common, and the data shows a steady increase in both their frequency and severity. Scientists warn that unless we address the root causes, these events will only intensify. Our infrastructure and preparation must evolve to keep pace with this new reality. Cities are investing in stronger flood defenses, better emergency response systems, and smarter planning to protect people and property. Climate change is loading the dice for more nor'easters, like Nero. The future demands resilience, innovation, and a commitment to understanding the science behind these stronger storms, so we can weather whatever comes next. As the sun returned, Boston faced a monumental cleanup. Snow removal was a Herculean task. Giant snow farms grew in parking lots, snow lingering for months. Flooded basements, ruined electrical systems, and cracked foundations revealed the storm's true cost. The fishing fleet and boaters suffered as harbor ice crushed vessels. Power restoration took over a week in some areas. Utility crews worked around the clock. The MBTA struggled to clear tracks and resume service. The emotional toll was just as real. Nero exposed the city's vulnerabilities. The storm sparked urgent conversations about resilience and preparedness. Recovery was slow, but the lessons were clear. Boston began the hard work of building back stronger. Nero's legacy isn't just destruction, it's the story of Boston's spirit. Neighbors checked on each other, shared supplies, and dug out cars together. Social media became a lifeline, connecting those in need with those who could help. City officials and emergency crews worked tirelessly, their preparation paying off. The storm tested every system, but the foundation held. As the snow melted, Boston emerged stronger, united by adversity. The scars remain, but so does a renewed sense of community. In the face of Nero, Boston proved it could weather any storm.